you're still playing Blood Knight, well, so am I, so I can't blame you there. In fact, I still find the class very fun. Now I'm going to cover a dungeon build today. I previously covered a single target build, which may be good for raid encounters, or perhaps even Shadow War. And today we're talking more specifically about dungeons. And this is a good time for this because there's a lot of players who may be grouping at this time, trying to pre-farm for Inferno 2, or perhaps you're still looking for some Inferno 1 pieces. And this build is going to focus on three things. First, it's going to be a party type build. So we're going to actually have some buffs that we bring to buff party members. 2, we're going to have the ability to do both single target damage for, say, bosses, as well as some AoE to help clear out the trash. And 3, we're going to have a little bit of mobility to help us keep up with the group as well. Now, this build was shared to me by Ador, who's a viewer, and also Habo mentioned to me that he had a viewer share this exact same build as well. So I'm thinking that perhaps Ador shared the build with both of us in hopes of getting it to as many people in the community as possible. So thank you for that. And perhaps there's another individual who I don't know the name of that was sharing this build or using this build, and that could be the case as well. But if you're watching this video and have any changes to this build, or even a different build that you think might be useful, Blood Knight is still in the relatively new phase, so there could be some things that aren't be discovered at this point. So it'd be great to share these things. For skills, we're going to use Skewer, Shroud of Night, Siphon Blood, Swarm of Bats, and Shadow's Edge. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the essences as well while we're watching some of this gameplay. And like I said, this is a group-oriented build. I'm just showing solo gameplay. That is so that you can better see the abilities in action rather than having multiple party members kind of congesting the screen. But I do recommend you use this in group play. So for Siphon Blood, we're going to run 2 essences to affect that. It's going to be Horns of the Hexed as well as Broken Course. Now, the helmet is going to transform Siphon Blood and allow you to no longer need to channel it. So you're just going to be able to pop the ability, walk around, and have it leech health off of everything. The recuperation from this is really nice, especially as you do dungeons. You basically never have to worry about using a health potion or running out if you're a lower resonance player or anything like that. Broken Course is actually going to do some additional damage once the enemy is hit 3 times. Now, a lot of people confuse this with a damage over time component, and that's not the case. Once they get hit 3 times, they're going to take a burst of this additional damage. So I just want to clarify that and hope that that makes sense to everybody. So this is just going to basically just be pure raw damage that gets added on. So it's nothing but a benefit, and there's really nothing else to run in that second main hand slot. Now, for Shroud of Night, we're going to run Layered Aims, and this is going to buff our entire party, empowering them, causing primary attacks to mark enemies, which means you all attribute marks to the enemies that you hit. Once they reach 5 stacks, they're going to take additional burst damage again. So you see this is kind of a repetitive theme with this build, and we're going to kind of make use of this to not only buff ourselves, but buff our party, and just have different forms of applying burst damage to the target. For Swarm of Bats, we're going to run Swarm Speaker as well as Faces of Fading Mirth, and Swarm Speaker is just going to put an AoE aura around us, and Fading Mirth is basically just going to cause them to take additional continual damage from this. Now, in this build, we're actually going to run 4-piece Vithus and 2-piece Shalbas. This seems to be the best performing, despite there being some continual damage effects. So you could use 2-piece Grace, you could use 2-piece Banquet. In fact, you could use 2-piece Gloom for this, but I just want to let you know at this point, 2-piece Shalbas is actually performing the best. So keep that in mind if you have the ability or access to those pieces. And Swarm of Bats will be something that we just use on AoE or single target because it's so quick to use with a very short or nearly instant cast time. We can hit this ability and then just continue on with what we're doing. Okay, so we're going to use that even if there's only one target. Now, in the first offhand slot, we're going to run Mercy's Plight. This is going to affect Shadow's Edge, causing it to mark the enemy. Okay, a second form of marks. And when they reach 4 marks from this ability, they're going to erupt for additional damage. So this is the third source that we have to kind of put this burst damage onto a target. And for the second main hand and second offhand slot, we're going to buff Skewer. This is going to be the Besalver as well as Sprig of Hawthorn. Now, the Besalver is going to transform Skewer into the Crashing Leap that most people are probably familiar with. And Sprig of Hawthorn is going to increase all damage you deal for 4 seconds. 4 seconds is a really long duration when we're talking about dungeons because most bosses will kind of either be phased after 4 seconds or potentially killed. So the 4 seconds from the uptime of this buff is really good. And since we're running 4-piece Vithus, we're also getting extended duration from this buff. So we have 3 ways of proccing Vithus on ourselves, as well as a manner of proccing Vithus on our party, right? Shroud of Night, which has kind of a medium-sized radius AoE, is going to be very good for getting near your party members or at the start of encounters using this. applying Vithus to everybody, helping you burn the boss down. Then we also have Siphon Blood, which is not labeled as a buff under the skill description, but it is in fact a means of proccing Vithus, or Bottled Hope if you have it. And we also have Skewer, which will also proc Vithus or Bottled Hope, or potentially even Gloom if you run that set. You have many ways of activating the Vithus buff, keeping your primary attack speed up, as well as doing additional damage from that 2-piece Shell Best. So as you can see, the build very efficient, whether you're clearing the trash or getting on the boss itself. For Paragon Tree, we're gonna run Weaver, and we're obviously mixing primary attacks in with some skills, so this is kind of the logical choice here, and it adds a substantial amount of damage over the other Paragon trees in my opinion. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch, and have a great day.